Pam. Today we're here with you MS Recovery Testimonies. I am so excited to share this with you because this is what happens when you treat the cause of multiple sclerosis. You are going to hear amazing successes of people that treated a parasitic infestation years ago, recovered from multiple sclerosis, and they are living their very best lives. If we haven't met yet, my name is Pam Bartha, and I'm the author of Become a Wellness Champion and the founder of Live Disease Free. And I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, so my story isn't included in the ones I'm going to share with you, but mine is pretty powerful also. I have been able to live MS-free for over 35 years now because I treated the cause. And yes, we know what the cause is. We know that MS and all chronic diseases are caused by a parasitic infestation. And as we treat these parasites, we recover, we get our health and our life back. But more than that, we live life at a whole different level. We're doing things that we never, ever thought we could do before, because it's kind of like when you feel like you're losing your life and then you get that second chance. That's really when people go, okay, I'm going to go for it and I'm going to really enjoy my life. So it is such an honor for me to share this with you because these are people that recovered years ago. And they're following the Live Disease Free plan. And so you might think, well, maybe they had some symptom improvement at the start, but were they able to maintain this? And yes, they have been able to maintain this, and they've been able to live at a much higher level of health. So I'm going to share with you their stories. I've created some amazing slides, so let's head over to the slides. So once again, these are students that we have worked with. They have followed the Live Disease Free plan, and it's changed their lives, completely changed their lives. The first person that I'd like to introduce you to is Marissa. And Marissa, when she found us, she had suffered with multiple sclerosis for many years. 10 years before she found us, she had to relearn how to walk. She had such a horrible, horrible MS attack. And so she followed the plan, and just over 3 months, she was able to wear heels again. And I remember on one of the calls, she literally had tears in her voice, happy tears, that she could actually wear heels, meaning that she had her balance back. So she was able to come off of all her MS medication. She had lots of energy. Her mood was so much better. And also she was able to start working out in the gym 5 days a week, doing really aggressive kickboxing classes. And she went back to work for the first time in 10 years. How amazing is that? So then after that, she continued on with her journey, and just got to pull up her slides here. So she continued on, and this is her now. And actually, I have a video recording of her, a recent video recording where she is sharing what her life is like right now. She has not seen a neurologist in 10 years. So she's one of our first students, and she's kept in touch with us. She started her own health food company. Amazing. And she also wrote a book. And so you will see when you listen to her voice in her video, you'll find that on YouTube. We have a playlist for our successes, and you'll see her little video there. And you'll see she's buffed. Like when you treat parasites, you actually look younger. It's crazy. So she honestly looks amazing, and I'm so happy for her. She has a health food company, plus she has written a book. The next student that I wanted to share with you is Lisa May. And Lisa May is a student that is a nurse, and she was a nurse when she joined the program. So she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis many years ago. And for the first 5 years of her diagnosis, she really tried every single medication she could to be able to recover from MS. And she found that the drugs just were not helping her. So then she found us, and she was pretty skeptical because, of course, she's medically trained. And this is a very, very different approach than our standard of care for treating multiple sclerosis. But she decided to take this leap of faith because she really had nothing to lose. Nothing was working. None of the MS drugs were working. And what she shared is that I am a registered nurse, and when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, all I knew or cared to hear about in terms of multiple sclerosis was what pharmaceuticals were available. For 5 years, I tried everything and every medication to help my symptoms. I was dealing with severe cognitive issues. I had to leave my job in the emergency department, pain in my legs, burning hands and feet, and terrible spasticity. My mood sucked, my energy was so low, and the list goes on. Then 6 weeks ago, I prayed to God for a cure, and I believed with my whole heart that God has sent me the answer. I feel so well. So this was her testimony just 2 months into the Live Disease-Free plan. She wasn't fully recovered, but she shared, I feel better than I can ever remember. And while it was difficult to go from being medically minded to being more open, I'm so glad that I took this leap of faith. Then 2 months again into the program, what she shared is her overnight bladder symptoms had settled. She no longer had to get up through the night. Her MS, the brain fog was gone. Her fatigue was gone. She was sleeping through the night. And she used to have tenderness all over her body. That was gone. Leg spasticity gone. Burning in hands and feet dramatically reduced. No more ice packs needed in bed. Her mood had improved, smiling more, less anxious and like anxiety and nervous, engaging more in life and in relationships, and making plans with friends and family because she knew that she could feel well enough to keep those commitments. And excited about the future possibility of raising a family. She shared, I once was fearful that I would not be able to care for children. And she said, I'm off all my MS medication. And she did that in 2 months. And she shared, praise God. Then a year later, she had an appointment with her neurologist, and her neurologist reported to her that all her tests came back normal, like someone who did not have multiple sclerosis. And the MS really impacted her cognitive function. And so when she did have multiple sclerosis, she was in brain studies. And then after the program, her brain function not only returned to normal, but it improved significantly, and she no longer qualified to be in the brain studies. So I mentioned to you that she also was suffering from infertility, right? And guess what? She corrected that also. And this is a picture of her 2 beautiful children and her husband, but now she's pregnant with baby number 3. And so she shared, I have been MS-free. I just have to move. Let's see. Here we go. I have been MS-free for several years now, and I was able to start a family. I owe my daughter's health firstly to the grace of God, but also because of the work that I did and I continue to do in the Live Disease-Free program. My girls are so healthy and alert. People are always telling me how bright they are, and I just smile to myself because I know why they are excelling. My whole life and understanding, they are derived from the Live Disease-Free plan, and it's changing things generationally for my family. Thanks for sharing in my happiness. I have so much to live and to live well for. So this was her a few years after the program, after following the Live Disease-Free program. And now she has started her own wellness clinic. So she is in London, Ontario, and her clinic is called Uptown Wellness Studio. And she is following her passion, right? And it's just like my passion. It's like when we get our health and our life back, many of us want to help others. And so this is her new studio, her wellness studio, and she is helping people to live their very best life. And I'm so proud of her. And she's actually due in maybe 3 months with baby number 3. So exciting. And she's still working. So here we have wellness champion Sarah. And Sarah is a beautiful young lady. I just keep moving myself out of the way here. She shared that living with multiple sclerosis, I never knew what the next day was going to bring me, as I really thought that I had minimal control over this disease, besides hoping that I would not have another episode. The anxiety over being a sick mom and one day not being able to care for my boys was why I decided to try this program. I'm extremely passionate about what has happened in my life in just 90 days. So this was literally what she shared after the 3 months or 90 days being in the program. So she literally became symptom-free, but then she went on to do the MS bike tour. This is in Alberta, where it was in the spring, lots of freezing rain. There were probably 500 people that started a 180-kilometer bike tour or bike run, and she finished it. Very few people finished it. And so I am so proud of her. And then she went on, that wasn't enough. She loves fitness, and she has gone on to doing 10K races. And so she did a few 10K races, and she shared, I truly feel that you saved me. I have recovered from multiple sclerosis, and I just ran my first 10K last night. I feel amazing. Thanks for everything. So that was her first 10K, but then she continued to run. And this was pre-COVID when they could run, and then she quit doing that, but she carried on with her fitness. But her best time was 1 hour and 2 minutes running 10Ks. I haven't run a 10K. I'm really proud of her. And she shared, so when I talk about like anti-aging and actually going back in time, it's amazing because if you look at her, she's beautiful and young. But then when you look at her now, like she looks so amazingly healthy. And she's another one that wrote a book. So this is a book that they just published. She co-authored with a few other authors, and it's Resilience Redefined. And if you want to get her book, you'll see her email address. There will be a replay for this video too if you don't quite get the email address, but it's her first and last name, 13.est. So Sarah Lynn, not her last name, Sarah Lynn, 13.sw@gmail.com. And I am so proud of her. So she is giving hope to others that, yes, there is a better way to treat multiple sclerosis. There's a way where you can actually fully recover. So she is super, super fit also, and more fit than she was before, and working and being a mom and an author now. So proud of her. And then there is Marissa. So I'm just sharing just a few, like probably about 6 different successes, testimonials of people that have recovered using the Live Disease-Free plan. And so Marissa is a young mom. I call her young. She's a lot younger than me. And when she was diagnosed with MS, like she had spent years trying to get a diagnosis. She had visited lots of different doctors, done testing. They said at first they thought it was all in her head, but she was so sick she could not even take care of her home, her family. She had to have people to come in to help her. But she finally got the diagnosis. But this is what she had to share. She went through the Live Disease-Free plan. She became completely symptom-free. And she shared, I will never forget when the doctor told me that one day I would be in a wheelchair. These words were devastating as a mother of 3 young children. I had a choice that day, accept what he told me was inevitable or to overcome. I found Pam's program and I never looked back. I am more alive today than ever. It's remarkable how much recovery we can have when we are given the right tools. I have my life back and I want to help others do the same. And she has been working with us for at least 4 years, and she is a Will Live Disease-Free coach. She is amazing. I just wanted to share a few pictures of what her life is like right now. So she does paddle boarding. Isn't it wonderful to have your balance back and that you can actually do paddle boarding? And also skiing. She's a really great skier. She skied a lot when she was a young girl. And now her dad, who is a ski instructor, said, you know, Marissa, you're actually a better skier than you were back then. And now she's camping also. She's got children. She homeschools. She works as a Live Disease-Free coach. She loves camping. And this is her and her hubby. Beautiful young lady. So happy for her. And she, like I said, she's camping, zip lining, skiing, doing hiking, all of the fun things, and having tons and tons of memories with her children. Then there is Vicky, and Vicky is a wellness champion in the United Kingdom, and she took our program several years ago. I should have been actually giving you the dates here. Let me backtrack. So the very first student, Melissa, I shared with you, she was the one that got her balance back and she could wear heels, and she started the health company. She started with us around 10 years ago. She has maintained MS-free for 10 years. Then there is Lisa May, and she has been at least 8 years now. And then we have, going on, actually 7 years. 7 years now. And then Sarah, 7 years ago also. So Sarah is the one that's running the 10K and wrote a book. And then the next student that I wanted to share with you is Vicky. And she actually I don't know that I have the date. Yes. Let's see. That's 6 years ago she joined. She's in the UK, and you can tell she's just really fit, and she has a yoga. She gives yoga courses and yoga classes. This is her actual website. You can actually go and visit if you're out in the UK. I'm not sure which city she's in, but check in. She might have some online courses. I don't know. But she is another amazing wellness champion. And again, like recovered from multiple sclerosis. And now she is helping others to really become fit and healthy. And she loves fitness. And then there is Morella, and she's so gorgeous. So Morella is a beautiful young lady from Australia. We have students all over the world. It doesn't matter what country you live in. And she also was dealing with multiple sclerosis, lots of symptoms. She followed the plan and she has recovered. And now she has started a podcast called the Well Worth It Podcast. So she's a little bit newer. Let's see how many, do I have her here? I'm pretty sure that I do. I would say probably 2 or 3 years that since she's joined the program. Yes, is 2 years. 2 years. So she has been MS free for 2 years. She has started a podcast. She used to work in administrative, like she worked in an office. But again, once you get your health and your life back, it's like you want to follow your passion. And so her passion is she is a health coach. She has the podcast, Well Worth It Podcast. And she actually interviewed, I don't know if I was the first one or one of the first people that she interviewed on her podcast. So it was really fun. And again, she's another young lady that really didn't think she could have a family. But now, if she wants to have a family, she can have a family. Because when we're diagnosed with MS, especially before we've had our family, it's really scary because we're told that very often we can get MS attacks once the child is about 5 months old. That's actually when I had my first MS attack. But the exciting thing is that when you treat the parasites and then you feel so amazing, you feel better than you have in years, then you know in your heart that it's safe and you just go for it and you have your family and you have your passion of work. And I'm just so thrilled for them. So those are just a few of the wellness, just a few of them. And I wanted to showcase that because it's so important that you can see the possibilities for you. There is a cause for the disease that you're living with. It's not that difficult. It's not that complicated. It is parasites. It is chronic infections in the body. And when you treat them, then your body goes back to functioning normally, the way that it is supposed to function. And I don't know if I can pull this up or not, but there was something that was really important that I wanted to share with you is that, and this really gets me fired up. So, well, a couple things. We just had our coaching call yesterday. We always have it the day before I do my live events here. And one of our students shared that her neurologist is going to help her treat parasites. That is the first time that I've heard of a neurologist being open to this because that's just not their training, not their background. This is a very forward-thinking, amazing neurologist. But what I really wanted to share, and this is why I do this work, is because I had a little bit of suffering. I caught the multiple sclerosis early. So yes, I had terrible optic neuritis. I have permanent damage in my left eye from it. It was a complete blackout for 6 weeks, tingling and weakness in my legs. And I have had my fair share of, trying to figure out how to treat these parasites for years. But I have conquered and I have beat them and I have been able to live MS free. But for people that are really disabled and you think, well, Pam, is it going to work for me? Because I've been in a wheelchair for years and I haven't been able to walk and I can't even move my toes. I can't even move my ankle. I've got drop foot or my ankle is seized. Like, is there any hope for me? And I would have to say that we have been helping and working with students for close to 10 years now in large groups over many countries, probably around 20 countries by now. So we've had a few students that were really, really disabled, and I can never promise full recovery. We did not know that people could have the amount of recovery that they are having. But what I can tell you is that I've had several students, and this is the most recent student that have been completely disabled in a wheelchair, haven't walked for years, and within just a few months, not years, but maybe even up to a year, that all of a sudden their ankle becomes loose again and they can move their ankle, and their toes, they can start to move their toes again. And we never thought that was possible. So if we could just get this part of standard of care, number one, we could prevent people from ever ending up in that position. But number two, we could help people that are suffering so terribly with terrible spasticity and like a permanent Charlie horse. They're using gabapentin and other painkiller drugs because they're suffering terribly. And maybe they don't have to. We've even seen hands where they're clenched like a claw for 40 years, 40. And then one morning they wake up and their hand is open, and then they can start doing physio. And maybe it's not 100% functioning hand, but it's to the point where they can shave their armpits. They can use it for all kinds of things. And it's amazing. So like, the body is a miracle. It knows how to operate. We just have to support it. And the biggest other thing is that, let me just share her success, and then I'll share basically that when we support the body properly and we help to, settle down the inflammation, which is the immune system fighting parasites, this is where we see the magic happen. And so there is a lot more inflammation than permanent damage to nerves, and the inflammation can be reversed. So with this student, just got to find her success here. I think I have it maybe at the top. Yes. So she is in the program, and she has been in our program for several months. So she's going a little bit more slowly, and that's okay. It's kind of like the hare and the tortoise. What matters is that you're doing your best and that you're moving forward as well as you can. So this student's update, and she's one of my biggest heroes, because I always say the bigger the challenge, the sweeter the victory. So for this student, she was diagnosed in 2012, and she said, "Good morning." She said her update for this week, which I got, was, "I'm feeling really good. I have completed 6 cycles of treating parasites. Although I'm not taking full doses, I'm able to increase the dose each cycle. My energy is so much better. I'm not napping in the middle of the day. I'm having at least 7 hours of sleep now, and I'm having daily bowel movements. Yesterday, I was getting my legs stretched, and the therapist recognized how much more my feet are able to move." So she has been in a wheelchair. I'm not sure how many years, but she's very disabled in a wheelchair. A few months ago, I could only move the toes on my right foot. Now I'm able to move the ankle on my right foot up and down and left and right. And yesterday I was able to move the toes on my left foot. This feels like a gigantic win. And as I know that it's progress in the right direction. So again, to me, that is gigantic, because we're told that once we are this disabled, we're never going to get mobility back. And our students are showing us that, yes, you can get mobility back. And you'll never know until you really implement and you really treat the parasites and you get that inflammation down and you let the body heal itself and you allow your body to just function as normally as possible. And it's always a lot more than we ever expected we could have. So that's what I always tell my students, is that I can't promise full recovery, but what I can share with you is that if you take the correct steps following the Live Disease-Free plan, and why do I say that? Because we are the only plan that is treating the cause, that is treating the parasites that are causing all chronic disease, not just multiple sclerosis. And when you treat the cause, and you have the right support, then you can recover in months and not years. So I'm going to go to your questions in a minute. What I would like you to do is please type any questions or comments. I'll take a few minutes to answer them. But I also wanted to give you kind of an overview of what these students are doing to get their health and their life back. So number one, they are following the Live Disease-Free diet, and we have the guidelines on our website on livediseasefree.com. livediseasefree.com. Under research, you'll find the Live Disease-Free diet, and the guidelines are there. There's a short video, like a 3-minute video. There's a cheat sheet you can put in your kitchen. We actually have healthcare professionals that are handing out the Live Disease-Free cheat sheet, and I welcome them to do that. I would really hope that in time that all of the healthcare professionals take this over and treat parasites in their patients. That would make me really happy. So we follow the Live Disease-Free diet. And the reason why this diet is so helpful, the only reason is not because I came up with it. It's because when we're dealing with a parasitic infestation, and if you decrease the carbs low enough, the parasites are less active. You notice a lot of improvements, symptom improvements, because when the parasites are less active, they're producing less poisons. The immune system is not working as hard. And then people notice tremendous symptom improvements because the inflammation starts to go down. This is a natural way to promote immune modulation. And we want immune modulation. We want to support the immune system, right? So we want to try to take some of the pressure off. Then we do other things to support the body. We make sure we're having daily bowel movements. Sometimes we use binders to absorb some of the toxins in the intestines. And so we're making sure we're eliminating daily. We're making sure that we're sleeping at least 8 hours per night. And that's a big deal for our students because the parasites, they make it really hard to sleep. We have a hard time falling asleep. We wake up several times throughout the night, especially that witching hour at 3 o'clock in the morning. And so we can use some over-the-counter aids to help us. We can also set up a bedtime routine. So between the two, that we're getting more sleep. So we're not sleep deprived before we start treating. And that way, also, our immune system is going to be stronger. We want our immune system to be helping us in treating these parasites. So then the next step that we take is we're having so many symptom improvements from the prep phase, which is the diet and supporting the body. And so this is where we can start to introduce things like the oxygen type therapies, which I can't talk about here because we'll be censored. Or we can also add in the herbs. And then this is where the students are getting access through their practitioners to the parasite drugs. They're getting energy tested because we don't have good stool tests to tell us which parasites we have. So instead of trying to figure out which parasites we have, we do energy testing with practitioners that are able to tell us which parasite drugs test the best for us. So if we test really well for, let's say, 2 or 3 parasite drugs that treat roundworms, we probably have roundworms. If we energy test well for 2 parasite drugs that treat tapeworms or flukes, then we probably have some flatworms like tapeworms or flukes. If we test well for different herbs that treat Lyme disease, then it's very possible that we also have the Lyme infections, the vector-borne infections associated with Lyme disease. So this is how we do it. And then we build a plan. And so then we know how to bring in the parasite drugs one at a time, slowly, so that we tolerate them. We want to avoid Herxheimer reactions as much as possible. And through all the prep work, we really minimize Herx reactions for the vast majority of students. If anything is too strong, herbs, etc., for somebody, they stop, fully recover, takes 1 to 3 days, they'd have to go more slowly. But if they have spent lots of time in the prep phase, and that could be 2 to 3 weeks, it doesn't have to be a very long period of time, but if they've really implemented the prep phase well, then they really decrease their chance of having a Herxheimer reaction. And that's important because then we can treat quicker, we can treat more effectively, we can bring different treatments together, have a better killing effect, and the parasites are a little easier to treat because they're not as fat and happy if we are feeding them with lots of carbs. So we have seen, and I really encourage you, if you haven't found our website yet, go to livediseasefree.com. That is where you're really going to understand what you're dealing with. I have blog posts every week talking about different topics. Just pick and choose the topics you want. It's written out in form, just nice and concise. There are different links. You can actually go deeper into topics. You can watch the videos. So it's like these videos, but they're a little bit shorter. I'm just kind of making them shorter so that people have less time that they have to watch videos. And so go to those blog posts because you're going to see the types of worms that our students are passing. You're going to understand all the issues, and you're going to see that there is so much evidence that multiple sclerosis is an infectious disease. It just goes on and on and on from, having gut issues 5 years before. That has been shown scientifically that people that were diagnosed with MS, they had gut issues for at least 5 years. Ding, 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 parasites, absolutely. And there's one study, levomizole, that I talked about, and that's a roundworm medication. And there's a double-blind placebo-controlled study where they gave a group of MS patients and a placebo group. They gave them the sugar pill. They gave the MS patients either a sugar pill or this parasite drug, and they noticed a significant decrease in flares, in MS attacks in the people that were treated with that roundworm medication. And it goes on. And, there's hydroxychloroquine, one study showing that it's really helpful for primary progressive multiple sclerosis, and on and on. So if you're kind of like, well, how can a roundworm medication and a malaria medication, how can they all help MS? Make sure to watch my masterclass training, because I talk about how multiple sclerosis is not caused by just one parasite. We have dysbiosis. We are out of balance. We have a few different parasites. Sometimes they're quite common, but if we don't knock back several different types, then we never have the recovery that we want. So in my masterclass, I share the evidence. I share the scientific evidence, the studies, the 100 years of studies that have been showing the link between MS and fungus, the link between MS and Lyme disease. Even the MS Society talks about, with multiple sclerosis and Lyme disease, people can have the same symptoms for both. They can have similar test results on MRI and lumbar punctures, but no, they're different. And it's like, oh, really? Like, that's a little bit too many similarities. So Lyme disease and MS, and also the link between fungus and MS, the link between roundworms, Dr. Alan McDonald finding small filarial roundworms in every MS subject. And these were confirmed cases of MS, and he found tons of worms. He found immature tapeworm larvae in every MS subject that he looked at. So why do we have so many parasites in our central nervous system? I've talked about that on a different blog post. It looks like people with MS have a much higher incidence of one bacteria. It's a Clostridia species that actually produces this epsilon toxin and neurotoxin that gets into our blood, and it gets up into the blood-brain barrier, and it gives us a leaky blood-brain barrier. Could there be other bacteria that cause that? Absolutely. But for those of us that have like a lot of infection in our brain, and how do we know that? It's the lesions. Those lesions are pockets of inflammation. They are pockets of infection. Actually, one of the studies back many, many years ago, I can't remember what, but it was before 1957, they actually found Lyme spirochetes in lesions of multiple sclerosis patients. So that they found the Lyme spirochete in attacking or embedded in the myelin of nerve cells. Like, this is all in my masterclass training. Make sure to watch this. Make sure to share this with doctors. And be gentle with your doctors. Like, just don't say there's this lady that's talking. Just say there's research showing that MS is probably caused by different infections. Are you interested if I send this research to you? And either they're going to say yes or no. And if they say yes, please share it with them, because that way you're helping to bring change, right? So the people that come behind us, sometimes it's our children, sometimes it's relatives, nieces, nephews that come down with multiple sclerosis. We can avoid that if we help to bring change. So I'm going to head over to a few questions here. I've got my computer really far from me here. Let's see here. So I'll just answer a few questions. So how do we join this, Pam? Joanne is asking. So what you do is you just watch my masterclass training. I actually did it live last week, but there will be a link beside this video, beside the replay, or you can just go to our website, livediseasefree.com, livediseasefree.com. And in the very top banner, there's a little place where you can, if you want to watch the masterclass training, you just click on it, put your email address and your name in it, and then you'll have access to my training. It's free. There's no cost to you. And that way, at least you're going to understand in much more detail all the steps we take to recover, all the case studies, many more than this are there. And once you listen to my masterclass, if you feel that you're ready, then you fill out the form, right? And that's a really important thing. There's a form that you're going to fill out, and that really helps us to know that you're ready. You don't have to fill it out with like an essay, but just put enough information so that we know that you're like, Pam, I get it. I'm dealing with a parasitic infestation. I don't have anybody that can help me. I need guidance. I need a plan. I need a proven plan. Fill out the form, and then you're going to get an email from us. And once you have the email, then you can book a time in my calendar. There will also be a link to the coachathon. And the coachathon, it goes really deep into the academy. as far as how, like, people are like, how do I access the treatments? How do I find a doctor that is going to treat me? How do I know what parasite drugs? Can I do this from Europe because I live in Europe, like, and you live in North America? How is this going to work? So all those questions are answered on the coachathon. So then some people, after they watch the coachathon, they just join, and you can join right away, but you're still going to have a time to talk with me because I always make that personal connection with my new students. I want to get to know your health history. I want to know what you've been through. I want to know where you're at. I want to get you off to a good start. I want to make sure that you're doing the right things at the start. You'll have access to the members area, to the online course as soon as you join. But I want to make sure that you're doing the right things because we want to recover as quickly as possible. So Joanne, that is the way that we do it, is just watch my masterclass training, fill out the form. You'll get an email. You can join at any point in time, or if you want to talk to me first to make sure it's a good fit for you, that's absolutely fine also. We just had 5 students join between like Thursday and today, so less than a week. We've just had 5 students join, and we're really excited to support them. Hi, Tina. You want to try this? Tina, this is the answer. Whether you work with us or whether you find a doctor that will treat parasites. And the problem is that if you find a doctor that wants to help you, you're still going to have to teach them, right? And that's what we teach you, to have this skill. The nice thing is when you do this, when you learn this skill, when you learn how to manage the microbes that live in your body, you have that skill for life, right? So you can really minimize your healthcare costs because you can do a lot of prevention. Yes, you still need to exercise. Yes, you still need to eat right, but you also have to manage the microbes that are in your body. We are exposed to parasites. They're in our pets. They're on our produce. They're in our soil. They're everywhere. They're just part of life. We can do things to minimize our risk. Probably the biggest factor of why we're in this position is that at some point in time, we were on too many antibiotics, and it doesn't take a lot of antibiotics to totally disrupt that protection that we had, that ecosystem, right? There's a lot of different health promoting microbes that would keep the parasites in check. But when we're on antibiotics, like I was for months for acne, then all of a sudden it's like wide open territory. The parasites are not affected by the antibiotics. They love it when we eat all the processed carbs. They start to get through the intestinal lining. They move into the blood. They move into the central nervous system, especially if we have a leaky blood-brain barrier for various reasons. It's not just that Clostridia species, but it can be other things too. So this is the answer, and you don't have to wait, but you have to take charge of your health, and you have to be at that place where you're like, okay, I'm done with this. I see there's an answer and I want my life back. So Tina, I'd be honored to serve you. And Joanne and Karen, greetings. Hello. Hello from Virginia. Patty. If you have parasites, will you see them? Yes. If you want to see some of the parasites, and I'm a very humble person, and I'm sharing all of this stuff with you because I want you to know that it's real. I've literally passed, it was about a 30-inch. That was the biggest one that I've passed. Yes, 30 inches long. Does it hurt when you pass them? No. You feel like 20 years younger when you pass them. You're just like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe like how normal I feel, how stable and steady and strong and young and mental clarity and strength. So for me personally, I believe that I have had a lot of intestinal flukes, and I don't know if they're roundworms, because some of the Ascaris roundworms are very long. I literally would have to have one of those microscopes, not a compounding microscope, but a dissecting microscope, I think they're called, which I would love to do. And I probably should do that so that we can start looking at them and identifying, like, is it a tapeworm? Is it a roundworm? But what I energy test well for, and this is what, some students test well for, they either test well for albendazole, ivermectin, and alinea. They can test well for other things like tinidazole and then praziquantel and niclosamide. So there's a bunch, right? Parental palmitoate, thiabendazole, levomizole, which is not available in some countries. So that's why it's really important to be energy tested. And the way that we determine our treatment plan is based on our health history, the health history of our parents, and also our symptoms. So we have a really great assessment form. It's about 14 pages long, and it kind of groups common symptoms of fungi, common symptoms of the Lyme infections, common symptoms of different types of worms like cerebrospinal nematodes, when we have these little worms in our central nervous system. How do we know that? Because for 100 years, veterinarians have known that when those little roundworms get in animals, they have all the symptoms of multiple sclerosis. So we can look at animal studies and we say, well, this is what happens when these roundworms are in the brains of domestic animals, right? And that would be very similar to humans. So it is really exciting that we know what we know. But what's frustrating is that we need more practitioners to come on board. It is coming slowly, but it is going to explode one day. I know that from the bottom of my heart, and I cannot wait for that day. What is energy testing? Patty's wondering. So we all have this field. Anything that's living has this energy field around it. When we are sick, maybe we have parasites, we're exposed to a lot of toxins, mostly from the parasites, then that impacts our energy field. So I'm just really dumbing this down so that we can understand it. And so when practitioners like acupuncturists, or maybe not so much some are trained in it, but it's more naturopathic physicians, or it could also be chiropractors. Those are usually the two types of practitioners that may have this energy testing skill. So they can use some type of applied kinesiology or an advanced muscle testing like ART, or they could use machines. And some of the machines that do energy testing are AMA, Vega machine, EAV. I think those are kind of the main ones. So whether, and you want to work with a practitioner that has like a license and they've been using energy testing for years in their practice. So they have a skill. It's a very, very specialized skill. I have studied several different types of energy testing, but I would never energy test because I don't practice. I'm not a practitioner. I don't do that. And I would never do that because it wouldn't be accurate. My results would not be accurate. But when you go to a practitioner that has a good reputation, they have a lot of good reviews, a good reputation in the community, they've been doing this for a long time, and then you bring one dose of common parasite drugs, you bring in one dose of the antimicrobial herbs, sometimes your supplements, maybe there's a food you're not sure if you're sensitive to or not, and they can tell that when they bring that drug, that herb into your energy field, or a food or a supplement, they can tell whether it strengthens you, balances you, or if it's not good for you. It's a very subtle thing. So it's not an exact science, but it's really helpful. It's better than one of the doctors is like shooting in the dark. It's just trial and error, right? Trying to figure out which parasite drugs are the best for you. But this is an evolving thing. And because we've worked with hundreds of students, we do see common threads where very often our students are infected with roundworms. So they test well for roundworm medication. And very often they are testing positive for medications that treat flukes, which are flatworms, and also tapeworms. And then again, the Lyme is really, really common. So the energy testing is just one piece of 5 pieces of information that we use to build a game plan. And so we're just doing the best we can. We don't have good tests. And I'm really conscious with I don't want my students spending thousands of dollars on testing if it's not going to be an answer for them. I want them to really get ready to treat and treat as quickly as possible, and to use as little or to spend as little as necessary, right? And that's why even with the oxygen type therapies, they're super helpful, but we have evolved. We used to really recommend ozone, but now we have other options that are much, much more cost effective, and we're able to do a lot more. Like we can do a lot more of, bringing oxygen into our body like every hour if we want to at home in a very, very cost effective way. So that is what we do. And our goal is to just make it as cost effective as possible, because it can be really expensive to treat parasites. All right. So Karen, so how do we get these parasites? How do we get these parasites if it is from diet specifically. It's the parasites, they can be on your shopping cart. If you have somebody that used the shopping cart, I know that now since we've had this virus that's gone around, that some different stores, they might clean the shopping carts a little more. They started doing that, but not so much. But let's say somebody has a bowel movement and they have parasites and they do their thing in the bathroom and they don't wash their hands. Same thing eating in restaurants. Somebody prepares your food. It's salads, it's not heated food, and then they pass on parasites to you. This has been known that, let's say, people that had help in their home cooking for them, and if they had parasites, that was passed on to people that, and how do we know? Because this was one of my mentors was sharing that Jewish families that would not eat pork, and they had these wonderful people helping them and cooking for them that did eat pork, they had the pork tapeworm, and then they ended up passing it to the people that didn't eat pork. So it can come from our pets. It can come from working in the soil. It can come from walking barefoot on certain ground that has parasites. They can come in through your heels, swimming in lakes. It's just, we have not been taught how prevalent parasites are in our environment. It's true that we live in countries where we treat our water. We end up putting chlorine in the water. So yes, our water will definitely be safer if it's chlorinated than if we were drinking raw water. But the rest of whether we're getting different produce in from different countries, some countries are using, they're using fertilizers and they're putting human waste in it, and there could be an agricultural waste, etc. So there can be parasite eggs. They're very hardy, right? They have to survive, so they can be passed on very easily. And some of these parasites can lay 200,000 or more eggs in a day. And so they're quite challenging to treat. It's not like you just take a 2-day treatment of a parasite drug and you're good. It's not that easy. But if you want to see what's been coming out of our students, watch my masterclass training, but also look at my blog posts. I've shared one is large roundworms in multiple sclerosis. I did another one on intestinal flukes. And so you'll see what is coming out of students. And this is normal. This is what I see every week. Our students are sending me pictures, and I encourage them to take pictures because we have to give our doctors evidence. So we give them, because we want to do this as cheaply as possible. We don't want to spend a bunch of money on tests that aren't going to give us the results. So then what if we can do these different infection symptom or parasite symptom surveys where we're looking at our symptoms, we're looking at our health history, and then we're showing them different parasites that we're passing. We also have energy test results. So we're building a case so that our practitioners can actually help us. Because otherwise, in countries like Canada, like a doctor can lose their license if they're treating parasites without a positive parasite test. And I don't know if they can lose their license, but they can definitely be reprimanded. And so this way, if you're giving them lots of evidence, then they are allowed to act like a professional, and they're allowed to say, I have enough evidence that I believe that my patient needs to be treated in this way. And so this is what we want to do, is to really help to number one, help people recover in the most cost-effective way, and help the doctors to be able to have the evidence that they need so that they can treat the patients that they feel that they need to in a way that they need to, that right now they can't. It's really frustrating. So again, we can get parasites from anywhere. They're around us. So just a couple more questions here. Is it important to use the correct binder? Yes. You have to be careful because things like activated charcoal is really great to use short term. If you have food poisoning, or if you had a die-off reaction, to use it for a couple of days is fine. But certain binders are going to bind, let's say, your fat-soluble vitamins like activated charcoal. So there are these wonderful companies that have these binder supplements, and they're getting people to take activated charcoal daily, which is causing people to become deficient in fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin D. And then when you're deficient in those, you can have more infections, you can have cancer, etc. So that's why it's really important to not wing this and not to just try different parasite drugs, because what if you don't need that parasite drug? What if you're not using enough that it's going to do anything? What if you use too much and you end up in the hospital, right? And we know that just like one parasite drug is not going to cure you. So then how do you know which combination? And it's you have to work with somebody if you're going to treat parasites. If you, let's say you're a healthy person and you just have a little bit of, off and on a little gas or constipation, you've got no disease, sure, go to the health food store and get herbs. Absolutely. Get an anti-parasitic little kit and treat the parasites. You might pass a few worms, keep building up the good microbes with raw sauerkraut, etc. And that's an important thing to do. But if you have chronic disease, those herbs, the parasite herbs, are not going to be enough on their own. We have found that. So I'm going to let you guys go. But if you're at the place where you're like, wow, I've never heard that parasites are causing multiple sclerosis or other chronic diseases, then make sure to watch some of my videos. Go to livediseasefree.com, look at the blog posts, read up things that are interesting to you, or watch the videos, YouTube, Facebook, Live Disease Free. And when you're at that place where you're like, I get it, this is what. So actually, we just had a technician, a pharmacist technician, and she's like, I haven't been diagnosed with MS, but I suspect that I'm going to be diagnosed with MS. And I administer, or we have people coming in every day, and I see them taking these medications, and they're not looking good, and they're not getting better. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to go down that road. And so she is so smart. She's going to be treating. She just started just a couple of days ago, but she is getting ready to treat, and then she's going to treat, and she may never have a diagnosis. She might just close this chapter of her life and just go on, and she's already talking about wanting to be a health coach. So she can, because would you rather learn from somebody who's gone to school and taken a 6-month wellness coach program, or would you rather learn from somebody who has recovered from an incurable disease? Absolutely the second, right? So with that, make sure to watch my masterclass training if you are at the place where you want to learn more about the steps that we take, that these amazing wellness champions took to recover. Or if you are at the place where you just, I need to do this, this is my answer, then watch the masterclass training, fill out the form, watch the coachathon. You and I are going to meet, and you can get started and become a wellness champion right away. Otherwise, if you enjoy these videos, the work that I put in, all the research, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. You are helping us to bring change in how we treat not just multiple sclerosis, but all other chronic diseases. So I will be back next week. Take care. Bye-bye for now.